Hello, in this video we're going to discuss Medicine Part 10, Afterlife. So, firstly we'll discuss what happens when a person dies. When a person dies, prior to the event, if the person is innocent, they're teleported by the Holy Spirit into heaven, into the control room, and swapped with a mere chassis, which is a body that's controlled by artificial intelligence that acts as that person through the trauma. So this happens when a person is raped, tortured, and killed, or undergoing surgery, giving birth. That when the victim is inside the control room, they can see a screen in front of them which is holographic, and that shows what's happening to them on Earth. So that's where you get the out-of-body experience from. Then, when the person has died, they're either invited into heaven if they're a Christian or a child, or they're teleported to the storage dimension. Now, the storage dimension is a planet. It has no star. It has smooth rock. It is barren. It is dark. And the soul is left there. There is two archangels that work there. And the people in soul form talk to each other. When you get an offender that winds up there, the archangels read out what the offender did. Everyone abuses him, and then the archangel always drags the offender 14 kilometers away from everyone else and leaves them there in pitch black. So Satan and his followers are not there. They were there, but they came to earth after Noah's flood. They were brought here to be tested and failed. So, soul chassis form, those offenders are in soul form on Earth on this day. You'll see signs of them. One of them is New Zealand celebrating Guy Fawkes Day. You'll find that out about that on a video, one of the other videos I've done. So, that's what happens when a person dies. In heaven, in soul form, the person is taken to a refilling chamber. They walk through a wormhole inside. God reaches in and touches the wall and injects gravity into the wall, and then he pulls his arm out and turns the wormhole off, and then the soul has a wormhole that emits soul material and fills the body, which takes 8 seconds. The process makes the soul glow orange, very bright orange, and then it becomes a body. A similar thing happens if a person consumes mana biscuit and their soul isn't completely filled. Then their whole body glows orange and they grow and fill their chassis. So you might come across that on Earth. The same thing can happen with holy water or mana water. It will, if a person is up to their waist in it for half an hour, it will fill the soul completely with the body. Takes a bit longer that way though. So the process of soul refilling. But in the case of a person that was on Earth, that did not die, got teleported into heaven, they don't need soul refilling. For example, if a person was on Earth and had a car accident, prior to the incident, they're in the control room. So how do we get this data? How do we know that the person's going to suffer? It is with the technology that sends data forward in time and receives data from the future, and that's how we know when something like that's going to happen. So in heaven, it is not a smoky, cloud-filled place. Unlike what people believe, you're not living in the clouds. The living in the clouds thing was an early days description of where heaven is. I would have to explain to people that heaven is in another place above earth, and people took it out of context and said we're above the clouds or something. So heaven is in another dimension. This universe has a wall, and with all the galaxies in the center, the dimension is sphere-shaped, and above this dimension are other dimensions. There's 4 dimensions above this dimension before you reach heaven's dimensions, heaven's stack of dimensions. Actually, it's less than that. It's 3. So to get from heaven to earth, you do it in a spaceship. You can teleport. That can be done in emergencies, but it is literally nowadays always done in a spaceship. And all that happens, it's a 4-day journey. The spaceship flies into the upper atmosphere, into outer orbit, which is out past the moon, then goes through a wormhole, and then arrives in high orbit above Earth, and then descends and lands on Earth. So we do have spaceships that regularly travel to Earth, and there's many different reasons. So you might see on the internet some F-18 Hornets chasing a UFO that they nicknamed Tic Tac. That era spacecraft is from heaven. So that's one example. There's another one that regularly flies to Earth that's cigar-shaped. You will come across videos on YouTube of these spaceships. They're here for a reason, and they're from heaven. So not extraterrestrial, they're from heaven. In order for extraterrestrials to get to Earth, it involves them building a big spaceship as a society that's kilometers long. It's full of food, fuel, air and water, and they travel in a unconscious state. They use a telepathic device that does that. It puts them in a deep sleep, but also moves the muscles so that the muscles don't waste away. The journey takes thousands of years to get here, and they do this journey as it is part of God's plan for humankind and sentient kind. So it's not a bad thing when sentient kind arrive here. It is a good thing. So we trade in technology and goods and tourism. Everyone's going to have a good time in the future. So as we can see, when a person dies, they're normally not there unless it's an offender. In the case of an offender, they wind up dying, whichever way it was going to be. Then they wind up in the control room, and then God tells them, "Get out of my house," and then they have to go to purgatory. So purgatory is a planet in another dimension, which is part of heaven's stack, and it is where people and angels get punished. God, Mary, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit have been in there and got punished. So punishment normally involves being whipped, and people are in there for hundreds to thousands, sometimes even more years getting punished. Some people have done some terrible things on earth, including in the medical profession. I'll just point out that if a person does something nasty to someone else, often, well literally always, we send the offender back in time to be their own victim. So just remember that. those of you who do bone marrow transplants, you'll wind up being your own patient. And that is not part of the tech tree. It's a very nasty way to kill a person or two people. It seems to be accepted in the medical profession. It is unacceptable to heaven. We've got a list. We're going to go through them, and people are going to go to prison. I'm the Archangel Daniel, and I'm from heaven.